This is a strange story. Employees at East Lothian Council have been advised to put holiday leave aside in case they have to take time off because of bad weather. And I'd love to know what you think about this. 80295 is the text. The council said it could not pay staff who did not fulfil their contracts by not going into work, even when there's a severe weather warning. So you're being warned, don't go to work. The police are saying, don't go to work. What do you make of this? Let's talk to John Hackett, Unison regional organiser who works in East Lothian, and also listening to this is Gillian Merchant, an employment lawyer for Thompson Solicitors. Let's start with you, John. I guess the counter-argument is, if it's business, business is business. You pay someone to turn up, they don't turn up, well, that's a holiday.
Well, I think that position sadly contradicts the advice that's been given to all employers across Scotland through the Fair Work Charter, and specifically relating to severe weather, which encourages employers to take a more relaxed approach when they're looking at, the contractual obligations on their employees in situations of severe weather, like we had last year with the Beast from the East.
But if you look at, local authorities, they're strapped for cash. They've got to keep providing resources. It's very difficult for them just to cover a huge amount of, the cost of a huge amount of people who don't come to work.
I think, Unison fully appreciates these pressures, but sadly it's often our members that bear the brunt of these through reductions in their terms and conditions. We've had a long pay freeze over the last decade, which is just beginning to thaw. But expecting employees who are willing and able to work but are unable to then be penalised once again by docking a day's wage, I think is hugely unfair, and it's something that our members are really upset about with the news that's come out today.
Yeah, John, if you can stay with us, we're not going to have an argument here. We just want to find out what the law is and what you all think. So, Gillian Merchant, you're the employment lawyer for Thompson's. On the one hand, you have companies probably who are strapped for cash, who can't afford to have workers taking time off. We have a local authority saying you need to put holiday leave aside in case you have to take time off because of bad weather. What's the law?
I mean, in terms of the law, obviously, as it was trailed in your preamble, the law is that there's no right to be paid if you don't turn up to work. Obviously, there are kind of exceptions to that, holiday pay, sick pay, maternity pay, those kind of things. The one thing that strikes me about the East Lothian example is the suggestion that workers would take holidays, because that kind of spectacularly misses the point of a holiday. The courts have defined a holiday as like a period of rest and recuperation from the workplace, and obviously that is not going to be the case if you can't get to work because of the weather.
Why not? Why not? You're having a nice day at home in front of the fire.
Because it would be stressful not knowing whether you're going to be paid or not, or in what way you were taking time off work. So I think that the way that they have framed it is possibly not the best way to have done it. However, the way that the law is, unfortunately, is for people who can't attend work due to severe weather. The options really are either they don't get paid or they take a holiday, or in some circumstances it might be possible for employees who have childcare responsibilities. They might be able to take some kind of parental leave, which might be paid, might not be paid, depending on the employer. So it can be difficult because there is no right to be paid.
But I thought you were the employment lawyer. We have someone's texted in here saying Preston already said if the police say it's not safe to travel, the company must pay. Is that true? So if the police say, and if the whole country's saying you must not travel to work, then surely, as you say, it's not your decision, but the company should pay.
Not legally, no.
Well, I suppose I can't get a lawyer to comment on the law, but it sounds a bit strange, does it not? If we take 10 steps back and pretend we're Martians, it sounds a bit strange if the law says don't travel to work and then you don't get paid.
Yeah, but I mean, your contract of employment is such that you attend work and that's what you get paid for. Therefore, if you don't attend work, you don't get paid. The law is as simple as that, unfortunately. And a lot of the time we're at the discretion of the employer, and a lot of the government guidance, which John mentioned, does suggest that employers should be a bit more reasonable. A lot of employers now have policies in place that say, right, we'll pay X days of adverse weather pay for people who can't get into work.
So hang on, sorry, what's the point, to both of you then, and again, pretend we're Martians, we just landed on Earth, what's the point in the government or the police giving advice, John Hackett, Unison regional organiser to people not to travel to work?
Well, I think the purpose of doing that from the police's perspective is safety, and I think the advice that Gillian has given all of us just highlights the importance of workers joining a trade union and negotiating a fair and reasonable policy that upholds the principles that have been agreed between the Scottish trade unions and the Scottish Government. And just last year at East Lothian, we had, quite frankly, an outrageous situation where some of our members were ringing into work in the face of a red weather warning and being instructed by their managers to attend. Now, some of our members did do their level best to get to work, only to find that they weren't able to arrive and then have the insult of having a day's pay docked from them. And it's a general worry for every employee across the council, but there are particular staff, like particularly women with caring responsibilities or those who already face mobility issues. And then there are other workers that don't have the ability to use flexi time or work from home. So to have this blanket approach to severe weather, I think, is not only just discriminatory, but it's hugely unfair and damaging for all of the staff at East Lothian Council.
Gillian, there's a couple of points to this. It's maybe a wee bit tangential, but if someone tries, as John said, some of his members tried to get to work, if something had happened to them en route to trying to get to work because of the weather, they had a crash or, they fell or they slipped, is there any indication who might be liable for that? And if someone is genuinely sick that day, they have to wake up and they've got the flu and they phone in. What are their rights there? Because, no one can disprove that they weren't ill, but, it goes down to perception, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if someone is generally sick that day and phones in sick and follows all the proper reporting procedures and things like that, there's no reason why that person wouldn't be entitled to the sick pay that comes with their contract of employment or the statutory sick pay that you're allowed. And, if an employer wanted to dispute that because of the snow and say, oh, well, they're just saying that because it's the snow or whatever, then really they would have to have some sort of evidence to do that, and they probably wouldn't be able to have that. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of the person who something happens to them on the way to work, I think that would be quite difficult, because at the end of the day, it's the individual's choice, in theory, in inverted commas, to attend work.
Except it's not really if they're legally bound to attend work if they want to receive that day's pay, if the letter of the law is pursued by their employer.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's a choice that an individual has to make, unfortunately, in the circumstances of this type of weather.